Today we're gonna do cherries. Well, 2 cherries. Here you go. So first we're gonna outline the cherries. I took a couple of reference photos from the internet. So basically 2 cherries tied together at the top with a stem. And I'm not trying to be accurate with the drawing. So just basically, just draw the line so that I can slap on colors like I usually do. Alright, the cherries are done. A bit of a shadow at the bottom. And we're not going to be accurate with our painting today, but rather, paint with, strong colors. By strong, I mean, cherries are red, but I'm going to use yellow and purple to depict, or splash on colors. I'll try to play with colors as much as I can. I think it'd be fun. So let's wrap up this drawing, and let's see how it goes. Usually I kind of give myself some guides as to where the shadows, the lighter part of the cherries, and where the brightest part where I intend to leave white. So, but overall is to give form to the cherries, basically. So here you go, the finished drawing of the cherries, and we're gonna start painting. If you are finding this too slow at normal speed, which is what this video is at the moment, feel free to speed it up, play it at 1.5 or even 2x the speed. So first I'll attack the stem. A bit of green, a bit of dark brown green combination. Again, I'm not trying to be precise. I'm just trying to give it a bit of form. The stem at the back is darker. Stem in front is lighter, where the light falls. And so I dripped a bit to make it sort of, give it a bit of texture. I'm using a bamboo stick to draw with the water, so that it gives it a bit of lines on top and maybe a bit of texture as well. Basically just play with it. I always clean my brush. I use 2 pot of water, one for dirty water where I clean my brush, and then I dip it into the clean water so that I can get my brush really clean. I find that the 2 pot of water really helps. So there you go, the stem. I always have a bit of a tissue paper handy, so in case I need to dab my brush to dry the brush. Well, when I'm painting outside, urban sketches style, I will swing my brush and give it a flick so that it becomes really dry. But of course, painting indoor, I don't have the luxury of flicking my brush, so I have to dry it with a tissue. As you can see, I use a bit of yellow to create where it's lighter, just to give it a bit of a sense that that's where the lighter parts of the cherries is. I kind of mix yellow and purple as well, right off the bat. Never use a single color in one spot, always try to repeat to give it a bit of echo. Again, I use a darker version of purple just to let it melt into it. Again, I don't really paint inside the line, so to speak. I love to paint over it if I can, and not necessarily paint according to the line. A dab of red, More reds dab on just to charge the color. I like to charge different colors into it, but anyway, a bit of cadmium colors, opaque, yellow, orangey, sort of cadmium. Again, around white, around the highlight, to give it a sense that actually, yellow and very bright colors gives you surrounding the highlights. That should give it a bit of form as well, making it more like a sphere, or at least the shape of a cherry. Immediately red around it. Cherries are red, so can't avoid red. Same with the second cherry. Dab on more red, a bit of the reflection on in the shadow. Yeah, and as you can see, I don't really paint the shape per se. I sort of made my brush dance around a little bit, make it dance here and there, and splatter, lots of water, splatter again, small splatter, big splatter, doesn't matter, just splatter. Splatter a bit of red. It's always nice to sort of contrast the colors and not just have one color in one spot. The more colors in one spot you want to tend to, well, I tend to put more colors in it, and let it sort of spread and mix naturally, if you like. The fact that the colors are mixing on its own is always better than your brush work, because you cannot do better than dripping your colors into a puddle, if you like. Drying some parts where it's the puddle is too wet. Make sure that when I mix more colors, they don't suddenly just explode. So it's always nice to just keep your watercolor in check, not too watery, or at least not too much water in the puddle. You want water to flow, but not too much. Now, darker colors, again, to give it form and shape, make it three-dimensional. And trying to create the shape of the two cherries, right, where the lights are, where the darks are, and to give it the kind of shape and form, if you like. I'm looking at the reference photo, but at this point I'm not really following it religiously. At this point I'm basically just playing with the color, so to speak, because yellow and purple will work, and it will work if you let the water flows and you let the color mix freely. You do have to let the water flows freely, because that's the best way of allowing watercolor, the medium, to work effectively. Again, more splatter, tiny splatter here and there, just for texturing. That always it's always a lot of fun. I really enjoy dabbling and splattering. I'm very careful not to use a single color across, right? Like a big stroke. You could do that, but then your stroke has to be really, really good. But all I'm trying to do is just to have the brush dance around, play with little shape, and I'm making sure that the shapes are not the same. Some small, some big, some, just, missing some purples, and just dab into it. So I continue to dab more colors, definitely more darks at this point. As you can see the two cherries are coming nicely from a form perspective. So I'm mixing purple and red, and I'm letting it mix freely, all the while make sure that the light and the dark don't get mixed up too much. So yeah, that's kind of the plan. So I continue to put more darks, trying to vary the color somewhat, playing with essentially warm and cool darks, basically purple, red, just to create the interest. I think kind of that's it, pretty much. Put my seal, just make sure it's in a correct spot. My name in Chinese. put it down. It's a bummer if you kind of mess it up, so I take extra care putting it down. Next would be just to write my name. So here you go. I made a mistake. Miss an E. My own name. Anyway, corrected it and put the year down, 2020. I think that's it. So at this point, normally what I do is I edit my painting. By edit, I mean, you know, I look at the edges and I try to soften some of the edges so that it's not so sharp. The brush that I use is the stiff brush. It's basically, you know, wet it down and then just soften the edges a little bit and let it kind of. Well, the problem with not softening it, it looks like a sticker on the paper, but by softening some parts of the edges, it looks like a melting into the paper itself. Right? Well, some of them are still wet. Some of the spots are still wet. I you know, put some water to wash away the edge and dab it away, sort of make it explode into the paper white, if you like. Same thing with the cherry, making sure that it is sort of soften up and provide a bit of a you know, well, the shape becomes part of the paper, if you like, right? If you soften the edges. The next part is just to soften some of the white, very jarring, so I make sure that they are softened up and the edges are sort of, yeah, mix a little bit, that there's no jarring hard edge to the sketch. Same thing, continue to soften more edges, making more interest. I don't intend to soften everywhere, but enough to give it a sense of diffused edges, softening a little bit more, the same part that I've softened earlier with a little bit more clear water, and yeah, so hopefully it gives it a sense of form and so on. But anyway, so this part of it is sort of like post painting edit of the work. Take a step back, take a look at what you need to do, and basically just, you know, yeah, edit it. At this point, I still feel necessary to drop some splatter or some colors, you know, just light version of it, to create a little bit more interest. And anyway, it's fun to splatter. It's always fun to splatter. That's part of the beauty of watercolor, really. It's to play with, you know, well, the fact that I splatter a very light color, the eyes can still see it. It's not like it's gonna disappear. Your eyes can see very faint color. So finally, a few white spot needs to be softened up. It's too jarring, so I will soften the highlight on the cherry. Make sure that there's no jarring line. Same with the other cherry at the back. Soften up. Yeah. Sometimes I use tissue to dab it after I've softened it. Sometimes I don't. It really depends on what you're trying to do. If you don't use tissue, what will happen is that some of the color will melt back in, but you would lose the hard edge. You would just have a soft edge to the sketch. And as you take a bit more, like I said, if you dab it, then the color goes away, right? So you might even get almost paper white, depending on the paper you have and depending on color, especially if it's not staining. If you have a staining color, you will not get back the paper white. Oops, clean the brush. Okay, so I think that's it, pretty much. So there you go. 15 minutes relaxing sketch of 2 cherries I hope you like it. And that's it. Final scan copy. Thank you.